Hello and welcome to Upstack America's Oracle EBS Financials Functional Training. My name is Bob and I'm the lead senior consultant for Upstack America. And with me today I have Victor, who is also a senior consultant. And today we are handling lesson 13 of accounts payables. Victor, please walk us through.
Thank you, Bob, for the introduction, and welcome everybody to this lesson in our Financials Functional Training series. We are still on the topic of banks and bank account setups, okay, which we started in our previous session. We saw the hierarchy that we need to create when we are setting up bank accounts. And in our previous session, we saw how to create a bank and a branch. And then we got up to the bank account part, which we did not create for reasons that I explained, whereby we have to create ownership for the bank account, meaning we have to indicate which legal entity owns this bank account. And we said it's just as the way when you open a bank account, it's under your name, right? So even when it's a company, which is the legal entity, when they open the account, then the company is the one that owns that bank account, correct? So even though the bank account is being used at the operating unit level, operating units are just their centers or their service centers that serve the legal entity, that they help the legal entity to carry out business operations, financial transactions, right? But the bank account belongs to the legal entity. And we saw that before creating that association between the bank account and the legal entity, we couldn't move forward to create our bank account in the system. We said that in order to create that association, we need to run this cash management security wizard. And that is where we are able to create that association between the bank account and the legal entity. So in order to run this security wizard, we have to log in as a system administrator, okay? Now, this is not the system administrator responsibility that we assigned ourselves. Rather, it's a sysadmin user that has many more like control functions. And under that user, we have a responsibility called user management, which is the one that we are going to use when we are running this security wizard. Okay, so we are going to head on over straight to Oracle so that we can run this security wizard. So here, instead of logging as the user that I usually log in as, I'm going to log in as sysadmin. So when you get to this part of your training, you can contact us, and then you'll get the login, the credentials to log in as sysadmin. Okay, so I think I entered the password wrong. Okay, so this is the sysadmin user, and you can see they have all these other options, including the normal system administrator responsibility that we usually have. So where we want to go is under user management. Under user management, we are going to go to this option here of roles and role inheritance. And once you do that, you get this page, okay? On this page, under type, you select roles and responsibilities. And then under category, we select miscellaneous. For the name, you enter now the responsibility for which you want to run the wizard. Okay, so our responsibility here is Maskani developers. Okay, so this is the role, Maskani developers payables manager, right? So we want to go and update, right? So once you get to this page, what we want to do is we want to like grant this responsibility the ability to create bank account, right? Because bank accounts are normally created under the cash management, right? But we want to grant this responsibility, the ability to go and create a bank account, right? So click on this security wizard button. You get this warning, you must save your changes before proceeding, save and proceed. So the wizard that we want to run is cash management, user management security wizard, all right? So as we said, the bank setups are owned by cash management, right? So if you want to do all those bank setups, then you go to cash management. However, we want to grant that ability or that role to our Maskani developers payables manager responsibility, and that is why we run this security wizard. All right, so select run wizard. Now we want to add a legal entity. Okay, the legal entity that we want to have is Maskani developers. So add legal entity. Let me cancel first. So adding, you can see here, adding a legal entity in this page will give the selected role access to all the bank accounts within this legal entity. After adding a legal entity, choose grants, right, that you want to assign to this role on the bank accounts of this legal entity. So that's what we are trying to do. So the role is Maskani developers, right? But once we run this security wizard and we add that legal entity, because we have said the legal entity is the one that owns the bank accounts, correct? But we want to give now this payables manager access to all the bank accounts within this legal entity, which we are going to select. So add legal entity, and we want to use Maskani developers legal entity. So developers payables manager has access to Maskani developers operating unit, which is serving Maskani developers legal entity. So select that. Okay. So what grants or what roles pertaining to bank accounts do we want to give to this Maskani developers payables manager? We want it to be able to use it. We want to be able to do maintenance, and we also want to do bank account transfers, right? So select apply. So you can see here all the permissions have been given, right? And now we can apply. So now when we go to create bank accounts under Maskani developers payables manager, then we will be able to select the bank account owner. That is the page where we had to stop because we hadn't run this security wizard. Okay, so let's go home. Okay, then now I have to log in back to as my normal user. So we have done this. Now we want to go and create bank accounts. Okay, and this is the navigation. So we'll go to setup, then payments and bank accounts. If I can find it. Payment bank accounts. Okay. So we don't have a bank account yet. We have a bank and a branch. So we need to create a bank account under that branch. So we can go create. We need to fill in these fields, right? So country was United States. The bank name was Bank of North America. Bank of North America. And the branch name was Jacksonville. Bank of North America. Oh, wow. Bank of North America, Jacksonville. So this is the bank, this is the branch, so we can continue. Now this is the page that we got to whereby we couldn't select the bank owner, right? Now let's see what happens when we search here. So let's enter Maskani. And now you see the legal entity pops up. The last time we couldn't do this, right? So select the legal entity. Okay. So now we can go ahead and select what we want this account to be used for. So you can select payables and receivables, right? You can leave a payroll out for now. And let's go to next. All right. Now we can enter this information about the bank account. So you can give the account name as Maskani, Bank of North America, checking. All right. What is the other function? What is the other mandatory field that we need to enter? Account number, of course. We can come up with an account number 001133 544 55. currency, let's use a US dollar. For now, that's all the mandatory information that's required. You have all this other information that you can enter. We're not going to enter that information for now, so we can go save and next. Okay. Remember that we mentioned that when we are creating the account, we also have to enter the GL account for cash, right? Because basically this is the chart of accounts representation of the monies that are being like entering and leaving this bank account that we have created, right? So for example, if you make a payment of 100, it's hitting the GL account crediting, right? But that also means that money is leaving your actual account at the bank, correct? So we have to enter our cash account. There are also other accounts that you can enter here, such as cash clearing, bank charges. This you can enter once we start using cash management module. But for now, the only mandatory account that we have to enter here is the cash. We are doing this for company 001. Cash account should be 1,000. Yes. Select division. Let's use the default. We can default the others too. All right, so that's the code combination. We can select that and select. So we've entered our cash account. We have all these other controls, cash management, payables controls, receivables controls. So we have all these options. Some of the mandatory fields, such as for here, tolerance amounts have already been filled, and we're going to leave them as is for the moment. And save and next. Okay. So this is our bank account. The bank name, we have the branch, the account number, organizations. So we have created association between the bank account and the legal entity. However, we have organizations that are doing the financial transactions on behalf of the legal entity, i.e. the operating units, right? So this page is what we need to see, that is what we need to specify on this page, correct? So it's not enough that we have created the association between the legal entity and the bank account. Now, the place where the bank account is going to be used is the operating unit. Operating unit is a kind of organization, right? Up there, it's also there with the business groups, and we talked about this inventory organization. So operating unit is also an organization. So we need to add organization access, which means we need to specify the operating unit, which will be using this bank account for financial transactions. And we also need to specify the modules. So at the operating unit level, we have multiple kinds of users using different applications. So for one operating unit, there can be payables, payroll, receivables, treasury, okay? So we need to select these details. So add organization access. So account use, we want this to be used by payables. We also want this to be used by receivables. From the very beginning, we did not select payroll, so it's grayed out here. Treasury is also grayed out. It wasn't on over. It was grayed out from the beginning. Now, add organization. Because we already created an association between the legal entity and the bank account, so the organization that's under that legal entity is this operating unit, Maskani Developers OU. So it's the only one that comes up. So select. You can put an end date here, which is not required, which shows up to when this OU will be allowed to use this bank account. We don't want to do that. So we're going to select continue. We have payables options here. We already entered the cash account. We have all these other accounts that we could enter but are not mandatory. Under receivable options, we also have bank GL accounts that we could enter. Cash has already been entered because we selected. So at the moment, we don't need to enter anything else. Okay. So we can select apply. So this is what we have done. The organization access. We have granted this Maskani Developers OU access to this bank account, and Maskani OU will be able to do payments and receipts into this bank using this bank account. You can add another operating unit also here if one exists. So we are going to go to save and next. You can also create a contact for this bank account, maybe an account manager or something, the person who you call when you have questions for this account. So let's just do it. Can have a Mrs. We already have a Janet. Janet Riches, taking care of Maskani Riches. So business, okay, now at bona.com. Can say maybe here this is the account manager or something like that. Manager. All right, so that's our contact, and we can enter apply. And we can finish our bank setup. So this is we have created the bank account. Maskani Bank of North America checking has been created, and if you select here, you can see all the information about this bank. So we have the account number, we have the owner, we have the cash account associated, and all these other things, okay? So, all right, looks like we did good. Now, the next step is the bank documents. We have a bank account. So remember the hierarchy. We have a bank. We have created a branch. We have a bank account. We need to manage documents for this bank account. Documents, checkbooks, right? When you're issuing payments, you write a check to the payee. That needs to be tracked by Oracle. So it will track things such as the check number, so that you can know how many check leaves you have issued and what check leaf is associated with what payment. So you register this bank documents in the system so you can keep track of information such as that. So in order to do that, we can follow this navigation, set up payments, bank accounts, and then we can manage payment documents. All right. So we are already here anyway. We can select Maskani Bank of North America checking, and then go to manage pay documents. So we don't have any documents yet. So what we want to do is to create. So click on create. This is the page that you get. So here you can add the payment documents. So you have the field to enter a name. So we can call this maybe, can assume it's like a stock of checklists, right? Like a checkbook. So we can say maybe Maskani checks. So under the stock type, we can have a blank or pre-numbered. So these are the two types that you can have. You can buy a stock of check leaves maybe which are not numbered, and you can have some which are pre-numbered. So let's use pre-numbered. What happens? Okay. So when you enter pre-numbered stock, the next mandatory field is format. So this checklist can have different formats. If you click on this find button here and click go, you will see all these kind of formats for payment documents. Okay. Some of them are for electronic payments. There are different kinds of also check formats. Some of them maybe they have a place for a payment stub, right? So these are just various formats of how these check documents are designed. So the one we want to use is standard. Let me just look for something with standard here. All right, so the one we want to use is this standard check format. Okay. Okay. So you can fill in other options like restrict use to manually issued payments, though it's not mandatory. The other mandatory field is the first available document number, right? So this is so that when you issue a check, when you issue a payment, then you print that check, then the system can know that you printed this on check number 1. So the next one should be check number 2. So you can keep track of these documents. That's important. So we can say that this is the first maybe stock of checklists that we have, and we can say that the first available document number is number 1. Maybe if you're ordering a second round of check leaves, maybe you had ordered 100 to start with, then this one can start from 101 when you're registering another set of these payment documents. So we have entered all the requisite mandatory information, and we can select apply. Please enter last available document number when. Okay, so this is pre-numbered. So if it's pre-numbered, it means there's a starting and an ending number, right? So we can say maybe this stock of leaves that we ordered has maybe 500 leaves. So let's apply and see what happens. Okay. So you can see this this is the payment documents under our account. We haven't used any yet. You can see there's things that you can track, such as skipped documents. You can see the status and all that. And we have our confirmation here that Mascani checks was created. All right. So we have completed this whole hierarchy. We have a bank, we have a branch, we have a bank account, and we have bank documents under this. Remember, the reason why we did this was in order to do payments, you need a bank account created in the system, just the way you cannot enter an invoice if you don't have a vendor. You only receive an invoice from somebody who has supplied you with something, right? So in order to issue a payment, we must be issuing that payment from somewhere, which is the bank account. So we have done that. So the next step, logical step, is to go to payments. And we are going to start looking at payments in our next session. So Bob, unless you have something to add, we can stop this session there.
Thank you.